Hey guys, YouTube offered me $1,000 to open up channel memberships and an additional $10 per person who signs up for them, up to another $1,000. And quite frankly, would you say no to that? So if you want to become a channel member, it would really help me out, and you'd basically get every perk that patrons get, and then some. From your name in the credits to access to the patrons-only server, to getting put on the wheel for me to discuss your favorite figures of all time at the end of every video. Plus, while I'm still figuring this part out, you'll get unique emojis to use and badges. And hopefully I can figure out some other stuff for the higher tiers in the future. I don't know what I'm doing with this system yet, so bear with me please. And sorry for bothering you about this. As for the video, I've always hated doing what's the best for waves of Transformers. I've always felt like it was the wrong format for it, but people really love them because they liked seeing what I felt like was worth their time from a wave in one big video. So I didn't want to stop doing them because it made you guys happy. But I think I finally have my solution. Instead of a what's the best, I do a buy or not buy about them. Honestly, the first buy or not buy was also supposed to be only on wave 1 of year 1, but you all know this. I'm stupid. And I forgot that that's what I was planning on doing. Like, I legitimately brain farted my way into covering 20 more figures than I intended to. But now let's actually get down to it wave by wave. And since last time no one seemed to care about the stock photos, plus it will help me crank these out faster so I can actually keep up with the lines as they release in the future, let's try doing it the same way. If you guys would prefer actual video, let me know, and I may do that if it seems like you would all largely prefer that. Welcome to Buy or Not Buy, Legacy Evolution Wave 1. Core Class Dinobot Sludge and Slag. I'm covering both of these at the same time because they are not worth it if you aren't going in for the whole team. They are meant to be part of a combiner and they sacrifice a ton for that, completely gimping themselves as figures on their own. Honestly, I would describe these as sub-core class. Like, these have at least a little fun to be had, but they are garbage on their own, just being a few steps ahead of McDonald's toys. Massive visual issues, a complete lack of elbows, ropey-ass dino modes. There's a charm to them, but not like a $10 charm. And if every one of these is $10, then the completed combiner is about the size of a Voyager for $60. And the question is, do I think that's worth it? And kinda do, kinda don't? Combining is always a fun gimmick, but getting all these figures is very hard. I'm still trying to find the last one myself. And 5/6 of a complete combiner is a worthless thing. But it also doesn't hold together the best, and I can't really call it a leader plus figure given that price. I'd probably say that while I do have more fun than I thought I would with these, you'd be better off not buying. You can get toys that are more fun that are trying harder for cheaper, especially if you aren't going to get the whole set of these things. Then there is Sound Blaster, a black repaint of the Core Class Soundwave, which I have never seen at any store ever, probably because they sold out so fast because the Core Class Soundwave fucking rules. That was a buy, and this is a buy, especially since the best thing that the terrible War for Cybertron Netflix show ever did was give Sound Blaster a recognizable and distinct personality, so now there's a reason to want this other than cool color Soundwave. Deluxes, breakdown, do not buy, end of segment. Man, I am just blazing through this video. Look, Wild Rider was a terrible shrunk-down retool of the Combiner Wars one, bordering on being an official knockoff of that thing, doing everything the exact same way, just worse and smaller, with a bit more accuracy and a backpack that was designed by a brain-dead pagan who worships toilets and misery, meant to crush all the joy in the known universe. That damn feature borders on half an idea that was phoned in when they went to the design board, then manufactured by someone who took one glance at it, realized what they were looking at, and then just didn't try because it didn't deserve the effort. Stupidity so immense that it should be a sin in the shape of a backpack. And this is a retool of that terrible retool. And I am so sick and tired of having this argument. Every time I say something is a retool, people always go, it's not a retool, it just has shared engineering. No, shared engineering is like what Titans Return Trigger Happy and Slugslinger had, where they were different figures, but Hasbro used the same legs between both of them to make them cheaper to make. They shared the engineering of the legs. Meanwhile, Wild Rider, the figure this one is an inarguable resculpt of, is a retool of the Combiner Wars Wild Rider. They are the exact same figure, just with the tooling changed. I swear it's like people think that retooling is only when the head sculpt changes and then maybe like one set of joints. No, it's when you start by taking a figure and then changing its tooling. Hot Shot. This is a buy, actually. I had a lot of trepidation about this figure before I got it, mostly stemming from its shins, but they did a solid job with this one. The legs could stand to be a lot more elegant than they are, but I don't hate them. They can get most of the posing you want if you untransform them a little, and they're plenty stable. Plus, it's got a decently fun transformation and a basically picture-perfect alt mode. It sucks that you have to buy the worst colors version to get his minicon, but yeah. If you are an Armada fan, then I think you'll be happy with this. The only people I've seen less than enthused about this guy are people who are like, where'd all the gimmicks go? Guys, it's 2024. It's a miracle when we get any gimmicks at all anymore. You can't hold that against a figure at this point, even if the OG figure was rife with them. Needlenose. This is a don't buy. The robot mode is like 80% good, poses well, looks pretty cool, got that badass knight aesthetic, but then it's got the most absolutely no shits given backpack of any figure since Power of the Prime Starscream, when there were like 5 dozen different ways to make this not suck. Then, core class figures have transformations that are more complex than this crappy thing's is, and the alt mode is like the top third of the plane, mounted on top of an early 2000s flip phone. G1 Silverbolt rides again with this absolutely checked out alt mode designed by someone who really just wanted to go home early. Where is my $25 going with this thing? Because on the back of the box where they list the universally padded out step count, they only have 14 steps. Like, I could have lived with the alt mode being pretty bad. I mean, we've long since proven that the alt mode on Jetformers doesn't have to suck, but I could have lived with that. But because they desperately wanted to skimp on the transformation engineering that not only resulted in a terrible jet mode and a boring conversion, but also wound up with a gigantic, stupid-looking backpack that's only saving grace is that it is so big that you can use it like a pseudo-flight stand. There is one last thing I have to point out. This is a figure Hasbro cared so little about that they couldn't even figure out how to put it in the box right. Really, behind the insert sleeve. You've made like 1,000 of these by now. How did you forget how this works? Was there too much lead paint in the figures and all the smoke from the packaging machines broke all the carbon monoxide detectors? Scraphook. This is a hard one, because I got this and I'm glad that I did. I really enjoy this thing, but at the same time, not everyone likes the weaponizing gimmick, and for those that do, this is where the weaponizing really started to go by the wayside. The result is the first figure in this little subgroup that requires no parts forming to transform, and that's cool and fun, but he still falls apart a bit too easily, and the whole thing winds up as something that's kind of neither fish nor fowl. Like, this is a complete non-character who is a bit closer to something that people may want because he's just a background junkion, so he at least feels in keeping a little bit, but for the people who aren't impressed with this gimmick, the figure isn't going far enough for them, and for the people who actually like it, the reduction of it begs the question as to what's the point. I've seen incredibly creative people get up to some shenanigans with this stuff still, but there's like no denying that it's harder and the results require a little more imagination than, say, back in the days of Siege. The simple fact of the matter is that you are either the type of person who will never buy a weaponizer, the type of person who will buy like 10 of the same one because hell yeah, let me Lego up my Transformers, or the type who, if the figure is good enough, may buy just one. I think that this is good enough that if you are in the last group, you won't be upset, so it is a buy, but the guys from the second group are picking up the slack in purchases for all of us. Voyager Class Leo Prime. This is actually a buy, and it shocks me. I was sure I was going to hate this thing, but a really fun transformation won me over, and the ability to extend the legs on the mushroom joints. Cause boy be more squat than Wolverine at the start of Deadpool 3 if you don't. I could honestly take or leave all of the gimmicks this comes with. I am unimpressed by every single one of them. But the posability is pretty good, the look is decent if you can get past the nightmare fuel face on the shoulder, and the transformation is a surprising and solidly good time. I thought I was going to offload this thing as fast as I could after picking it up, but I have no plans to get rid of it currently. Maybe you find the upcoming Takara version more appealing, but I'll be honest. Between Nina and that thing, I'll put the bullet between googly anime eyes any day of the week. Also, if you've only ever seen Brotherhood, I don't want to hear about how scarring that scene is. You don't even remotely know how bad that scene can get in the original series. Always watch Full Metal Alchemist before you watch Brotherhood. Brotherhood literally assumes that you did, so like half the context of that show is in the first series. I know that's saying, watch a 50-episode show before you watch a 60-episode show that's a more faithful reboot. Deal with it. They're both great, and one is predicated on you seeing the other first. Voyager Class Tarn. Look, I know I'm in the minority on this, but I hate this thing. I fucking despise it. Maybe it's because it took forever for me to track one down, and in that time, everyone managed to overhype it to shit to me, but it is a figure that does not pose half as well as people act like it does. It just has a cool design that's making up for it to an extent. It's still not swole enough, even if I drop my size complaint with it. Tarn is supposed to be one of the beefiest dudes in the whole franchise, so this swimmer's body version of him doesn't work. It's flat like a sheet of paper, making him even less intimidating. The transformation sucks. The way the elbows bend in constantly is infuriating. Oh, and then this thing has the ugliest hot rod shoulders of all time, because they're on these fucking stocks, so it's supercharging the worst kind of joint, making every pose I put this dude into look dumb as shit because he's always doing a monstrous shrug with a broken clavicle. Everyone calls me crazy on this one, but I swear it's just that people are getting taken in by the awesomeness of the IDW aesthetic, not because this thing is actually good. So I personally think that this is a waste of money, but most of you seem to enjoy it, so what's it matter what I think? You like what you like, even if I don't get why. As for leaders, Transmetal 2 Megatron. It's a buy. Reasons why are in the directly previous video. Prime Universe Skyquake is also a buy. While since making my video on it, it has gone down in my assessment for being a little bit clunky, there is no doubt that it earns the money. A solidly big by the modern standard leader class that is more faithful to the design aesthetic of Prime than basically any of the other figures it got. I'm still seeing people turn their noses up at this, but come on guys, this is wrong by degrees. Earthrise Optimus is significantly less accurate than this is, and people still loved that. Posability is great, and the alt mode is pretty good. The transformation isn't terrible, but it is the one part of this thing that I don't enjoy. If it was just complicated, I would be fine with it, but it's got this annoying combo of weird and complicated that makes it so hard to keep straight in your brain. Interesting, but not something that you will go through for fun. But when the rest of the figure is this much of a winner, this one aspect isn't dragging it down so far as to make me not recommend it. Lastly, Commander Class Armada Optimus Prime. It's a buy. While I find that the small base version of him is excessively boring, and that dominated the review I made of this figure, I will say that the total package makes that all not matter. So what if he's a tad weak and dull in little mode with a 0-step transformation to get to vehicle mode? The transformation into super mode is where all the fun from the smaller guy was absorbed into, and the combined mode rocks. It's tons of fun, even if all it ever seemed to do in the show was make Optimus into a bigger target. Plus, this figure can form the Prime Recliner, the greatest power-up in Transformers history, capable of dispensing beer and justice while watching the game, in style and luxury. So Wave 1 of Legacy Evolution isn't so much an evolution as it is a marketing slogan for unchanged legacy. This isn't Legacy Evolution, this is Legacy Year 2, with all the pros and cons that entails. In this wave, we have 2 figures that are basically just buys from the previous year, 4 hard buys and 3 flat don't buys, and then 3 figures that are maybe buys. And I'd say that the Slag and Sludge are trending very hard towards don't buy. Seriously, those are only buys buy if you want 4 other figures as well and to pay way too much for all of it. If we lock all those in question in, then it's 5 buys and 5 don'ts, and the most generous interpretation is 7 buys and 5 don'ts. The highlights are pretty high, but the lows fucking suck, and it's still not a healthy line. And before we go, let's thank a patron, or channel member. Let's be real here. You guys just found out about channel memberships, it's going to be a patron. And this time it's Nick and Furnace with 86 Grimlock. A solid choice. By far and away, the best mainline Grimlock by 100 miles. It's not even fair to compare not only what came before this in Chug, but compare this to the MP which it is a retool of. While Wild Rider ruined everything that made the old figure okay, this improved on every bad feature of the MP and made something awesome looking, tons of fun, and truly special. Not just the best mainline Grimlock, but hands down one of the best Grimlock figures ever, including third party. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.